Hi, Miki Das. Hello, everyone. I'm Miki, your company man featured with in the clouds since we're always flying planes. We are not flying planes today. I might later, but instead, we are here today with episode 4 of FuWan Mocha in the morning, bringing you the last week, cough, 2 weeks of flight sim and aviation-related content. I'm joined by my co-host.
Hi, I'm Jibber VT. I'm a dog, but a slightly different color. And we have our guest, Spaceman from CBW20.
Hi, I'm Spaceman. I'm a real person, which has apparently thrown some people off.
So, Spaceman, why don't you tell us what you do related to flight sims and aviation?
Yeah, so I primarily fly the F-14. My night job is the CAG of CVW20, and my day job is I work at Northrop Grumman. So very, very boring. Not much exciting stuff happening there.
All right. I was expecting more CVW20 plugging.
Yeah, no.
We can get to that later, but you've given me a whole section. I didn't need to...
we've got a slide for you to do it on. We'll get to that later.
And you'll contain it to that slide.
Dun dun dun.
That's what you think.
All right. First up this week, technically last week, I think, actually, at this point, the F4 Phantom manual got dropped last week. I've only glanced over the manual. However, it is quite comprehensive. I've looked at an actual F4 Phantom flight manual before, and it's very similar, almost one-to-one. It even carries some of the same real-life manual precautions one might want to take, even to avoid discomfort. So, like, it advises you, if you're going to do a cartridge start, hey, you should close the canopy first, and then put your oxygen to full.
Yes.
So it's the high detail we come to expect from heat blur.
Have
either of you gotten a chance to glance through the manual?
I have. There's a lot more there than the old FSX F4. Oh, I forget who made that one. I think it was Milviz. But yeah, I started my flight sim career on F4s, and it's just it's really great that it's finally coming to DCS, I think.
Are you excited to go back to flying F4s?
I'm not going back. I'm never going back. I've told the story before, but when we finally got the chance to transition to F-14s, I had to beg my CO. I was like, please let me switch. Please let me switch. Please let me switch. Reality is, and I think you're going to see this, there's going to be a lot of people who hop in the F4 and expect it to be this wonder plane, and it's not. It's an old junker, but that was the point.
But that's the fun of it.
Yeah, it's from a different time. It's just it's good old classic McDonnell Douglas aviation. That's the joy of it, and if you're there for that, then you're going to have a good time.
Joe, can I draft you to be my backseater?
You are one of a few people that want me for that. So you guys will have to figure out how to share, but in theory.
In before I accidentally learn how to be the backseater with air show, but then we have two backseaters who can't fly.
Yeah. I mean, I could fly. I just get bored of front seating in DCS.
I've already gifted the fish her copy, so she's gonna hopefully be up and running day one.
Ooh, that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
That's why I did it. It's gonna be fucking hilarious.
All right.
You ready to move on?
I think so. This is the next thing. More exciting.
SATAC.
At least that's what I think is exciting.
SATAC, one of the most exciting events. I'm so glad it's happening right now when there is a bit of a lull in stories. Granted, our stories here are from 2 weeks of time because we missed last week. But SATAC is coming in to save us. There have been a number of matches these past 2 weeks. There's one currently ongoing that has been really exciting. It's on Airshow's channel right now, if it's not already done. But today we had In Sky versus Snake. It was a pretty I'm just forgetting the words here. A pretty intense fight, because it's like all F-16s, F-15s, F-18s fighting each other. So they're all very similar in capabilities, not asymmetric at all. So it all comes down to the pilot and the strategy.
Mika, did you catch the one with ETF on day one?
With Eclipse Task Force versus Air Combat Roleplay. Yes, that was another exciting one. They won 2-1.
That was crazy. ACR gave them a real run for their money.
Yeah, they really did. There was also Phoenix Task Force versus 4 Degree Stormo Cassia Virtuale. I'm sorry if I am slaughtering the pronunciation of that. That one I did not see. I didn't catch that. There was 45th JFG Horseman versus CK 81st. I think that's another one I missed.
Yeah, did see that one.
Then there was 342nd KU versus 9G, and oh my god, that was another riveting one, because it was like, again, all similar aircraft fighting each other, and there was just, it was like a meat grinder.
Yeah.
What
and
was that one from yesterday? The
51st?
51st,
Yeah,
that
the
was
51st.
a blowout.
That one was crazy.
You can tell that the 51st just live in the sim, because they've got everything down to just such a precision within the second synchronization.
Well,
yeah, I mean,
when your team is so coordinated, you're dropping your landing gear at the same time for landing. You know, you're all on the same wavelength, and you've got good communication, which is really key in BVR fights.
And mind you, on top of that, they were doing that with Fox 1s. That was not with active missiles. That's impressive. I mean, they were doing manual override shots that were beating the range of the AMRAAMs.
I had brought up in air shows that actually I still stand by it. I think if you were to take the F-14 to SATEC with an entirely Fox 1 loadout, you get some interesting results, because longer range than the Sidewinders, obviously, but not beholden to the Fox 3 range limit. So,
yeah, I mean, the problem with the Sparrow, of course, is it's relatively easy to defeat energy-wise. It runs out of energy very, very fast. It's a big, draggy missile. Not nearly as bad as the Phoenix, but it's going to be, if you're in a good maneuverable airplane that you can turn away and pull a lot of speed, like cold, you can probably beat the Sparrow, depending on the range that it's fired at. If they fire it at max range, if it's closer, it'll be a little harder.
you should never quite discount the Sparrows. We covered this a lot in the Zone 5 campaign's training briefs. The Sparrow is not just a longer range missile than the Sidewinder, but it's also got the advantage of you can turn it off if your target doesn't look good, because it would just go stupid. It's also faster than the Sidewinder, and it's, I believe, more maneuverable at higher altitudes.
Yeah.
So, it's all situational, as with any missile shot, but really, picking the right time to fire for the right thing, you can get a kill every time if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, if you're in the right situation, of course, but if you just drag it down low, it does not do very well.
That's true too, but that's where you take advantage of the longer burn time and keep it rear aspect. Just theoretically simple stuff that just never plays out in the actual fight.
Yeah. And then I think the last one was the one right after Fezziworst DVD.
We skipped over, I think, Wolfpack versus IIAF.
Oh, we did, yeah.
Oh, which got delayed, so we haven't
Yeah,
seen the results of
that's
that
why we
yet.
skipped it.
And then Team Wadafac versus Dynamic DCS with a Team Wadafac victory. We're seeing early on a lot of these are 2-0. That's likely due to a lot of the newer teams that are involved, I think, because like 9G versus the 342nd. 9G, I think this is their first time at SATEC. Don't quote me on that.
No, yeah, it's 9G's first time. It's newer teams and it's versus really advanced veterans too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's impressive how close some of these matches can get. Like 9G
It is.
still did quite well against 342nd.
You gotta really just give all the credit in the world to these newer teams that are coming in, giving it their all, and then just fighting the hell out of every match they get. That they don't give anything up easy. I hope
really
to see all of them back next year.
What I would really like to see in SATAC maybe next year is, and I know this is literally asking for double the work on the organizers' end, but I would like to see a double elimination, just so that these newer teams can keep fighting, and like you get a bad lot and you're put up against like the team that won SATAC last year. That kind of sucks, but you get some experience from that fight and then you're out. Well, what if we did double elimination? So you get that same first time team who gets to then fight other first time teams who got knocked out by the veteran teams, and you get to see a lot more closer matches as well.
I'd like to see that, but at the same time, I'm worried you may get a situation where, certain teams just kind of fall into that lower bracket and they stay there because it's not really, they're not getting the experience against the better teams. They're only learning the mistakes of other rookies. But I don't know. I might be talking crazy there.
It'd be interesting to see at the least.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We've definitely had debates recently over like which of the rookie teams is the most promising.
Let me go. While we're still on SATAC, let me just go watch Airshow's team stream. Oh, so they are in Skies 1 against Snake 0. They're in match still currently, so those results will probably be coming out before we're done. We can look back at it or beg Airshow to tell us about what the results were. But I think we can.
They're still very early in. Look at that, because they're practically just merged.
So we'll keep rolling.
I'll harass Airshow if he doesn't come in and give us the results later.
Yep. Next up is the DCS BO-105, a helicopter I have never heard of until 2 days ago. It's a helicopter and it's coming to DCS. My only notes are I've never heard of this thing.
Oh, you'll not like it.
Why not?
It's not.
It's kind of endearing. It's one of those things that like Germany came up with back before Airbus was a thing.
Well, yeah, it was merged into Eurocopter when MBB merged into Airbus.
It's the thing about the BO-105. It's actually, Mika, I'll let you read the story first. I'll dig into it in a minute.
That's all the notes I have. I don't know anything else about this thing.
This module has had the most chaotic, turbulent development. You thought the Kiowa was bad. This one was nightmarish. The amount of times it's been deemed cancel. It's really I'm surprised if it does come out.
Well, you say the Kiowa, but we all know that the Kiowa is coming in 2.9, according to our insider, Airshow D.
It's coming out in 2.9, practically confirmed by Glowing Amram. The BO-105 had a situation for a while where I think the lead programmers and developers both just vanished without a trace, and the project was just kind of taken over, and Miltech had a partnership with Razbam, and then the partnership disintegrated, and it was a whole mess of stuff.
Something's going to be good when the devs just disappear, especially if they reappear mysteriously too.
Well, and I was talking to Joe recently about one of my favorite FS 2020 mods that has also disappeared off the face of the earth. and I suppose I'll probably bring that up later. Um, it's sad though, because obviously these simulators are entirely reliant on the third parties, and I want as many aircraft as I could possibly get my hands on. But then when these projects just die and fall through, it shows that really it is limited to just a select few of third parties, because not everyone can do this. It is a very brutal development cycle. So yeah, very disappointing, I think. But I do hope the BO 105 makes a comeback.
I was excited. I was kind of excited for this because it looks like it's a light and fast helicopter, but now I see people in chat are saying that it's heavier and underpowered.
Yeah, it's not amazing for power. It flies all right. It's good enough, and it does what you tell it to do.
You can really look at it as kind of a wonky Huey. That's how I would describe it.
Hueys.
Hueys are good. You leave the Hueys alone.
I want my
I've
little
been
bird.
converted to Hueys. Wannabe Tomcat got me in a Huey, like sat me down, forced me to learn the procedures, and now I love it. It's fantastic. It's killed me Lord knows how many times, but you know, it's endearing. Let's call it that much.
All right, we're gonna give Spaceman his time in the limelight now.
Oh boy.
Uh-oh.
I've been waiting for this. CVW20. The reason I don't sleep anymore. Such a I've still got the software. Yeah, I've got my IDE up with all the fucking code for this new project I'm working on, which is just a blaring white screen of maybe too much stuff. Okay, hold on. Let me pull up the press release that someone wrote like 2 nights ago. How's what look? My attention's pulled in 12 different directions. Okay. You wanted me to read this, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, let's see. Naval Air Station Logan experienced its second fire this month. That was a fun one. March 1.5.2 is under full construction. Also fun. Oh, Mika, here's one you'll like. CVW-20 participated in the launch of Determination 7, a simulated 4-hour Mercury space flight. The flight was a resounding success, except for, you know, the fucking thing with the fuel.
4-hour space flights.
He's got that in here too. During the flight, the capsule expended its entirety of automatic fuel. This necessitated a manual re-entry. Spaceman successfully guided the spacecraft to a safe re-entry and splashdown on target off the coast of Florida. The success of this mission has encouraged us to... no, it hasn't. Ignore that part. Yeah, no, that was a good mission. Mika, I'm so sad that you couldn't join us for that.
Yeah, I had to like do nothing that week because I was sick as a dog.
Our doggo was sick. But it was a fun mission. Fun, of course, being a relative word. Mostly because I was sitting there for hours on end. I'm trying to think of like something super interesting that happened, but around the 2-hour mark, we took a look at the fuel gauges, and the automatic was Mercury's got 2 separate fuel systems because it's got 2 separate control systems, one for automatic, one for manual. And we looked at the automatic, and it was down to like 3/4, which is weird. We don't normally burn through that much. And then like a couple minutes later, it was down to half.
A fuel leak.
Yeah, I'm starting to sweat, and then it drops to like 1/4, and then it dies. And I'm panicking. Because I'm a good pilot, but spaceflight is unforgiving. So I believe before it died, we hit the automatic reentry, and the burn was okay. and then it just completely went out. So we went fly-by-wire, manual, and then like manually oriented it for reentry, which I guess in theory isn't too hard because it's got that bell shape for a reason.
You just point backwards and you go.
But how do you determine where is backwards? That was the problem.
You look at the Earth spinning under you.
Except I couldn't see it. I'm entirely reliant on. It's got these 3 dials, one for roll, pitch, and yaw, and I have to like go through the manual, be like, okay, we need pitch 40, pitch, so on and so forth. And it was I was sweating bullets during that because if I had flown for 4 hours just to die in reentry, I was not going to be a happy camper.
Huh, but it'd be so realistic.
Yeah. But I think the next thing on the docket is a Gemini flight, but I have to learn a computer from the 1960s for that first.
Well, that's what it's like flying the Vigan.
Yeah. Oh, Gemini is actually really easy, based entirely off the fact that it's like just address and then the actual value, and then the computer does all the hard stuff for you. But what else do we have here? CVW20's new offering in the World War II. Oh, he's releasing this now. 20's new offering in the World War II space has been going by the codename Masters of the Air Show D.
Oh no.
We need to rework our way of thinking for this campaign, but we're committed to bringing the best World War II DCS experience possible. It's kind of cool. I was just kind of screwing around with it as like I wonder what I can do with this type situation, because DCS World War II is notoriously underappreciated. And I was kind of talking with Airshow about it, and then it was like, maybe there's something here. So
you're gonna revitalize the DCS World War II community?
I don't think I can revitalize anything with that. The DCS World War II community is practically dead.
Believe in the me who believes in you.
But I want to do it just because then I can give it to Airshow and let him do whatever the hell he wants with it. Because it's kind of a dynamicized scenario. Like you load in and then something different happens each time. So that might be fun to screw around with when IO2 isn't being cooperative. And it'll let him fly the Mossy, and Airshow and the Mossy is a hilarious experience.
A match made in heaven.
Yeah. Oh, hey, we're in this one too. Tune in for an upcoming IO2 1946 collaboration. Some of your favorite DCS content creators have been drafted. A single PBJ-1 in the middle of Europe shall contend with the craziest bombing rates that can be thrown at them.
A PBJ?
PBJ-1, which is a navalized B-25.
I was going to hope that it was the 75mm gunned one.
It might also be that. That might be under B-25-3. I have to double check. I know that both of you have been drafted for this. I'm excited for that.
I don't know why you want to cram 2 dogs in a metal tube, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that just sounds like animal abuse.
2 dogs, a fish, and an SU-27 flanker.
Oh, Q.
And also Bill from Left 4 Dead.
Q. In World War II Navy parlance, PB is like patrol bomber, I think.
Yeah, that's.
And then you have like a Y or a J. So you've got like the famous PBY, but then the B-25 as a Navy aircraft is a PBJ.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I have flown in a real B-25, and man, not only is it like insanely ear-shatteringly loud, but the thing is practically a fighter jet. It'll just go straight fucking up if you let it.
I think we were talking about that in the Airshow stream before that. Like World War II bombers, if they are unladen, they've got some serious power behind them.
Yeah, it's Oh man, in the B-25, I wish I was listening. I mean, I wish I had hearing protection because I'm pretty sure I'm like half deaf now. But it's such a good sounding engine. It's like, uh, like all the muscle cars in the world in the chorus.
What
It's
those
a beautiful sound.
radial engines sound like. They're beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. There's a lot more stuff in this press release than I really wanted them to put in, but we've been no stranger to the use of AI and ChatGPT constructing our campaigns. Thanks to all new in-house tools, we've been in the process of constructing an all-new generative AI for use with our DCS multiplayer campaigns, powered by Llama. We're excited to bring you the cutting edge of DCS simulations in ways you've never seen before. Fucking Llama.
Can I bark at it?
Yes, you can. It's just the dumbest fucking, because even in the conceptualized meetings, we're like, we're gonna have to just run the server for like a week on end to train the model on this. It's gonna just have to be miserable for a long time. And we're very excited to suffer through it.
Oh boy.
I don't even think it'll change that much, because it's a generative AI, right? So in theory, it's just going to do the same thing that the algorithmic AI has been doing for fucking ever. But then at the same time, it'll also hallucinate, which will create weird and strange things that we're not expecting. I think that's part of the joy of it.
Does that mean that it might bring dragons into CVW 20?
It can't add extra stuff, but when I say it'll hallucinate, basically the way we've got this going is the AI will run through basically just a list of stuff that it wants to happen, and then we've got a parser script that goes through that list, and it's like, I recognize this, I recognize this, I recognize this, and then transfers that into DCS. So it'll look more like if-then statements, but one of the things we kind of sort of tested on it was when the model went weird. You know how the Persian Gulf has Banderbas, and then the Banderling and Bandery like way off onto the right side of the map, just out there doing nothing. Well, the AI went absolute hog wild and decided to launch a P3 Orion from Bander Ejask, and then load it up with nothing but dumb bombs, sneak past the enemy air defense, and then bomb Dubai. It was wild. But
interesting.
I think it would be really funny. That's the whole advantage of a generative AI in DCS. It's just stuff that you're not expecting. And the last note here is, we'd like to congratulate Spaceman on his not guilty verdict from his war crime tribunal. Tune in to the Nutsops for more in the future.
Oh, what civilians did you bomb this time?
It was a legitimate military
Shot down a
target.
Yak 40. No, he shot down a Yak 40 full of civilians.
Ooh.
Listen, the AWACS is responsible for this.
You
We did
have a way to
everything right.
optically.
And if I'm going down, I'm taking Exxon with me. Exxon, say hi in the chat.
No, you literally have a way to confirm the target in the Tomcat. You don't have an excuse.
I was told to fire. I was following orders, Joe.
I saw that fucking taxi, man. Like, you did not hesitate to just shoot down that airliner.
Did I show you the stream of the actual camera feed?
Not yet. But look, I have not once shot down an airliner. I've had no blue on blue ever either.
Your pilot has.
So I don't care. That wasn't me. It's never happened. It's never happened while I'm in the airplane.
What about all those refugee camps you guys bombed the other week?
That was bombing, and it also wasn't blue on blue.
Well,
Look,
neither
every
was
one
what
of
I did.
every one of
They
those,
weren't blue.
every single one of those children was a potential fighter for the Iranian insurgency. So that we had to fight in the Casanova campaign. So, yeah.
Oh boy.
We're all gonna be arrested. Oh
All
boy.
right. On that
Anyway.
note, I see, Joe. You put a 737 here.
Oh wait. I just want to
Well-
real quick, if you guys want to see more from CVW20 or join the website, please go check out www.cvw20.net. Thank you very much. Joe, please continue.
All right, well, here comes a major shakeup in the civilian side. The formerly open source and free Synaptic Simulations A220 project has been scooped up by AnyBuild and will become a full fidelity payware add-on.
No.
However, it was shut up. You sit there and wait. Okay. The aircraft was in development hell, and they couldn't get it done on their own. They've been working on it for 3 years with little to no progress. AnyBuild decided, all right, we'll help you, but you are now an AnyBuild's product if you do. So this means instead of waiting 7 years and never getting the plane, we actually get the plane, and if I got to pay $50 for it, or it's probably going to be like 30 because it's AnyBuild, so they just subsidize all the purchases from the money that's been paid by Microsoft. Fine. I'm willing to pay for that if it's a high-quality add-on.
What if it's not?
I'd be shocked if it wasn't.
I need to remind you of the Quick Flight B2, but we'll
That's
later.
not AnyBuild's doing any sort of development work on that. That's not them.
They put their name on it.
It's in the store. That's different.
No,
That's
like
a
it
shop
says
front.
AnyBuild in collaboration with QuickBook. But
Yes, that's what it says when they put an item in their store.
We're arguing semantics here. The bigger thing is this is another free mod that was going to go to the community that is now okay. Well, you have to pay for it, which
It was never going to
just-
happen.
it raises the barrier to entry of flights. I understand that it was never going to happen. I mean, like maybe with a total refresh, but it's now no one else can take up that mantle.
They
You know what
didn't. I mean, they didn't update it for I think over a year. They provided no development updates at all. Like it had gone completely dark and it wasn't going to go anywhere at all. I mean, it's.
The
I was following this add-on since it was initially announced for X-Plane. Like it's.
the thing. Oh, really? It was initially.
Yeah, and then they realized, and then X-Plane shit the bed in terms of market share, so they stopped bothering with X-Plane. And it would be two totally different development trees for essentially two different add-ons at the same time, which wasn't viable for a freeware project.
Yeah. Well, the thing I had alluded to earlier with Project Global and their 707 recently, we just got an announcement on the Discord that was basically like, okay, we haven't heard from the project lead in the past like year. We're pretty sure that this project is gone. And the difference there, as sad as it is for me to see that the 707 is all but dead, is there's offers to open source the data. So someone could take this and pick it up and then, just go right back to making 707, which it's hard to do. You kind of need all you can get.
Yeah, I mean,
so it's not. I'm not feeling great about the fact that now this open sourced free mod thing is going to a payware studio.
I mean, it would have never seen. It would have wound up like that 707. It would have never seen the light of day if they didn't do that.
Well, the 707 still has I know I sound like I'm coping, but it has the vaguest of a chance. Because if they open source it and it goes to some other developer, yeah, then they can pick it back up more or less where it was left off. I mean, that's what's been happening with BO105 this whole time. Is they're switching from programmer to programmer, and they all kind of put their own little spin on it. But I don't know. I understand. And AnyBuilds are far from the villains here. Yeah. Because they've generally done a pretty good job of making stuff accessible. It's planes that you'd never get to fly otherwise. Yeah.
But
Not to mention they released the A310 completely for free to anybody that has a copy of Microsoft Flight Simulator.
which was a pretty baller move.
Now, I'm guessing Microsoft cut them a pretty massive check to do that, but it's still...
Whether they did or they didn't have to, you know?
Yeah.
The bigger thing here is it's the the MSFS freeware space has been pretty freaking abysmal for a while now, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
I don't know. I'd say Fly-by-Wire and Horizon and Kuro and everybody working on those 7.8s and those A330s and A320s have done a pretty darn good job of that. I mean, they've essentially rebuilt all the code for Airbus's airliners from the ground up in order to port them into different airliners, and now they're making... I think they're probably going to release that A380 in 2024. I think they're getting... It seems they're getting close enough to actually do it.
Let me rephrase this kind of to better demonstrate my point. What is your favorite freeware module that you have for MSFS right this minute?
That would be the Headwind A330-900 Neo.
Okay. Didn't see that coming. Is it, shall we say, full fidelity-ish?
Yeah.
Okay.
It just... Even the printer prints stuff out.
Didn't see that coming.
The printer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not how... Well, even the new ones still have it, but it's like this isn't like how it used to be. It's not FSX where they're slapping default 2D cockpits into stuff and putting a 3D model on there and calling it a well-made add-on. No, they do full fidelity development with teams of hundreds of people.
It's just like if you compare it to X-Plane, well, and X-Plane's been around for a lot longer too.
Yeah, they kind of have
you get stuff
20-year head
like
start.
the 720B, where it's basically just a full fidelity 707 that's free. And this is my heartbreak, right? Because it's you're not getting the barrier to entry feels higher. And actually, know that there's an A330. I feel pretty good about that. But when I'm in the VA, and by the way, check out Pan American Virtual at some point if you feel like it. When I'm looking at ranks and planes that early pilots can use, it's always a good practice to have a freeware at the bottom, so at least everyone can fly something.
Yeah.
And
I mean, Microsoft's even hosts a Fly-by-Wire in their store as a free add-on to download.
See, this is complete news to me.
Oh, yeah, it's almost as if I cover that news. When I was in the alpha and beta programs for Microsoft Flight Simulator as well, so I was on top of it through the whole development, which I don't want to make any comments on that because I don't want to, in case anybody from Azobo is actually like in here, I don't want to say anything about how it was on initial release, and I'll just leave that there. But there's plenty of high quality stuff going around and stuff for cheap, and it's...
if anyone from Azobo is in here, give me my 707.
Well, maybe they'll include it as a local legend at some point, but
I probably would pay for that. No, and I'll tell you what else, though. The fact that these modules are out there now and they're cheaper bodes well. Because if I can pick up a plane for $10, $20, then it's going to be easier to convince people to spend money on Microsoft Flight Simulator in general, because you're going to get more out of it. So, yep.
All right, I think let's go on to our next one then.
This one looks pretty cool. A helicopter with pontoons.
Yeah.
Ooh, boy.
So this is the Bell 47J Ranger.
47.
And that is Microsoft's new local legend that came out with the most recent world update, which will be our next story. And it is a early Bell helicopter. It can come with pontoons. It's got a really interesting kind of structure to it where the front end is all one giant bubble canopy, giving you amazing visibility out of there. There's like no instrumentation in the aircraft at all, pretty much. There's like a little bit of like engine instruments, and that's it, on a panel sitting to the left of the pilot. But it's pretty cool. So the pilot sits in a central front seat, where you are in front of everything, and the passengers sit behind you, almost like a McLaren in terms of how they sit. And you can just look around and see everything, and you have amazing visibility for going and exploring. And I think that's perfect for this helicopter. Excellent claims it's a death machine. That's also kind of true, but don't worry, you can't die in Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Hey, wait, why is it a death machine?
Early helicopter.
Yeah.
Piston
But, I
helicopter at that.
But I want to fly
You
early
look at it, it looks
helicopters.
like
They're
there's a
so
lawnmower
dangerous.
engine. Fun fact: most people in this chat have seen this. By the way, I'm absolutely picking this up later and flying it through Korea. But most people have seen this on the silver screen, at least, because the Bell 47 is better known as the Bell H-13 Sioux, and was popularized by the TV show MASH.
Yeah.
So.
You mean that show that went on longer than the war it covered?
Also,
Yeah.
man. You can't talk shit about MASH, though. I haven't found
It's a
a
good
crappy
show.
episode yet. Yeah. Dude, I was like rewatching it lately, and it's just like there are some scenes that honestly kind of hit me in spots I don't really want to think about. But it's a really well done show. It's worth a watch if you haven't already. Although realistically, who here hasn't seen MASH yet? Like,
Probably people or guests who live outside of the United States.
I'm willing to bet money that Exxon has probably seen it.
I would
Exxon's
bet.
a man of culture.
I would bet
Exxon,
the,
in the
North
chat.
Korean viewers have not seen MASH.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if you have North Korean viewers, Mika, your reach is way further than I have ever expected.
Exxon, have you ever seen MASH? Hex, go in there if you want to chime in too, since you're from
Yeah,
Germany.
Hex, have you seen MASH?
Oh, would you look at that?
Exxon, we're gonna watch that later.
All right. Well, this news story had water,
answer that
and I see
question.
water in the next image. So why don't you tell me
Yes.
what this is?
So that is tied to this. The next up is Microsoft has released their World Update number 16, the Caribbean. So it's a graphical refresh of the Caribbean of more scenery, points of interest to visit, and to check out just kind of the beautiful world of flying in the Caribbean. Tons of redone airports, and the release of a new local legend, that being that helicopter for you with pontoons for you to explore the Caribbean with. In this screenshot you see somewhere, I'm not really sure where that is. It looks cool, but you got an Icon A5 flying out of the harbor right next to it, and it looks fun. I'd love to check it out, and just do some flying and check out the islands. It's warm, it's nice, it's pleasant.
Two planes. Absolutely love flying into the Caribbean with the PMDG DC-6 and the JRF, the G21 Goose with the big JRF radials. Those are a blast. It's such a fun time just cruising around, looking at all the cool sights and sounds. It's a gorgeous area.
When can I fly a PBY in Microsoft Flight Sim so I can land it in the Caribbean and
I
such?
don't know if there is one out yet. There might be.
That's gotta be planned. Someone's gotta be eyeballing that.
Yeah, or it's already done. I'm not sure. There might be. There's
It
other.
wouldn't be too hard.
There's plenty of other options for flying boats too. Well, not flying boats, but
buy
pontoon
new
planes.
PBY Catalina, like IRL. I don't know why this isn't a module yet.
Data in order to get it and put it in with the modern stuff. If the company that's making the modern ones doesn't want to hand it over, you can't make a modern one. You can probably try and find stuff for the old things, but the more years go on, the harder it is to find old records
As
for
far
flight manuals and
as
stuff.
as far as I know, the company that's making the quote-unquote new ones is using the exact same FAA type certification for the old ones, and the only thing they
Okay.
may be changing is updated avionics. Just
I
the
wouldn't
dash.
just slap a Garmin in there.
Yeah, because that's
This is
cheaper than making all
a
of
big
that stuff all
probably
over again.
Right.
they'd probably just put a G3000 in there and call it a day.
Yeah. So a lot of the stuff you should be able to find still, hopefully.
Yeah.
No, I'm fairly confident that it can't be too hard for them to find.
I also wish that the PBY news had come about while we were doing this show, so we could actually like just spend, I don't know, an hour talking about it.
Yeah, especially if we had Air Show on, we would probably be 6 hours talking about it.
Oh yeah, it's such a
I
beautiful
can
plane.
easily spend 6 hours talking about the. Did you guys ever watch The Great War of Archimedes?
Nope.
Mika, you'll enjoy it because the entire thing is in Japanese. But the show is about.
I can't read Japanese.
Yamato. Let's get subtitles. Anyway, so the entire show has it is about the Yamato and its design process and the arguments that came about as it's a super battleship and stuff about tonnage, and I'm not going to get into the whole thing. But the opening scene is actually the sinking of the Yamato. And there's a small bit where, the gunners in an anti-aircraft gun shoot down a plane and it goes down, and then the American pilot parachutes out and they're staring at him and they're all celebrating, and then they watch a PBY swoop in, land, and pick him out of the water and then just take right back off again. And all the Japanese anti-aircraft gunners are staring at him like dumbfounded.
I know that's I've heard of that scene, and it's been remarked that it's a little far-fetched. However, I would like to point out in what I've read of U.S. World War II subs, there were a number of accounts where spotter planes, like the float plane spotter planes, would see pilots go down and then just land, pick them up, and have them sit on the wings, and they just taxi out of danger until they could find a sub, and then give the downed pilots to the sub. It's not too far from true.
The reality is, even if it is far-fetched, you've got all kinds of crazy accounts of the USS Indianapolis and the heroic Catalina pilots who saved all the people there. The real masterpiece of the Catalina was its ability to save pilots that would have been lost otherwise. And when you're talking about saving lives in a war, especially experienced pilots, that has a tangible effect on improving your force, because losing experience is almost as bad as losing a plane. It's actually much worse than losing a plane.
Especially the Pacific planes that the US had. They were so incredibly cheap that it was by far preferred to lose multiple aircraft than a single pilot.
Like, you can build a new plane. It's going to take a lot of time to get those pilots trained. And arguably more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's, Catalina is so underappreciated. I love it to tears.
All right, next up we have another slide where Joe did not delete the text boxes, but here we are.
I thought I did.
It's another 737. Can you tell us what's special about this 737, Joe?
Yeah. So Bluebird Simulations have announced a change to their projects and why it's taking so long. Their Boeing 757 will be a full high-fidelity study-level simulation rather than the initial plan of offering a low-fidelity version at first, then a high-fidelity one later. They decided, all right, let's just do the full thing. It'll take us a little more time, but we'll do it. And they're hoping to have it out by the end of 2024. It's a Boeing 757. It'll come with a freighter, the 300, the engine options, you name it. And it is a plane. It flies. It's good. It can fly across the Atlantic on long and thin routes where it wouldn't justify a wide body, but it would be able to go across the Atlantic anyway. It's a cool plane. They fly them still a bit. Eventually they'll retire them in real life. They're kind of at the end of their service life. Yeah. Unless it's Delta, because Delta will just buy anything so long as it's old.
Delta would like more 717s, please.
Yeah, for about, I think, 18 more months, then they'll be gone, as A220 deliveries continue. because
Dragging their
I
heels.
hate
No.
flying on those fucking things. They are cramped. They're not comfortable.
Yeah,
The
they're not
Wi-Fi. It is the only plane in the fleet where the Wi-Fi isn't free.
You.
Yeah, yeah, $9.90. I mean, it's still cheaper than Southwest Wi-Fi. Don't get me wrong; it's only $9, but you know, everywhere else it's free with my Sky Miles account. So Delta, what's up? It's the same internet
You can-
provider, same Wi-Fi antenna.
Mika, I would like to partially correct you. Kiyu is correct to a degree. There are examples of planes making ice cream as well.
Planes making ice cream. I'd only heard of the barges. I think there were 2 that were converted out of old World War I era experimental concrete boats, if I'm not mistaken.
It was kind of a one-off thing. Basically, there was a guy, he was in the Marine Corps, and he made the mix on the ground, put it in the 2 drop tanks under the wings, and then flew up to altitude where it then froze in air.
Oh, that's like the beer delivery aircraft for the Brits.
To a degree,
Yeah.
Yes.
They'd put
The
room
number of
temperature
times
beer in the
we've
drop
done
tanks
this.
and then drive it or fly it over the channel, and by the time it got delivered to the troops, it was cold.
The number of times this has happened in aviation history is quite frankly, it's a large number. Anyway, as for the 757, I think this was a module that was a long time coming. It's too iconic to not have.
Yeah, and they've been working on this one for a while. I think they started in 2021 on it, and it's good. It's I think it's gonna be great to fly. But another Boeing 717 gripe: the overhead bins aren't the same size, so bags only really fit in a one side, but not the other. Meaning that half of the overhead bin capacity can't be used for carry-on bags. Which means if you aren't on the plane like first, everybody's fucking carry-ons get gate checks for the second half of the airplane, which is some bullshit. And given, it's free. All right, I understand. But I don't want to sit in Orlando for half an hour waiting for a goddamn bag to come to the carousel. If I wanted that, I would have paid for the check bag and just taken a bigger one, rather than taking my small carry-on that I take for weekend trips for work. And I can't wait till that plane's retired, to be honest. Good riddance. Hey, Boeing 717.
Mika, we've set him off.
Hey,
Yeah.
we've angered the dog. He's
Yeah,
just going.
adjust
Bark, 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 bark,
Yeah,
bark,
it's like
bark,
the
bark,
fucking
bark, bark.
mailman's here. You drop some like Mika barks in the chat or Mika angries. There we go. There we go.
It's just
It drives me insane. Insane, I tell you.
All right, I've got
And then,
one last question.
on top of that, they haven't fucking updated the interiors of that airplane for a decade at least. So every other airplane in the fleet, even the Airbus A320s and 737s that are
updated,
older than the
Joe?
717s, the ones that are older have the new interiors, but not the 717s. They don't have it. So everything else is the nice in-flight entertainment screen, the free Wi-Fi, the comfy seats, all of that, like, despite being economy, is genuinely comfortable. But no, the Boeing 717 doesn't get that, even if it's a 3-hour flight.
We're talking about an MD-80 with modern avionics. That's all this is. That's all this plane
I don't
is.
give a fuck. They should have it up to either the same standards or just cut them and replace them with the A220s, which is they should have done by the end of last year. I think was the original timeline. Actually, I think it was the end of 2022, and then they decided, yeah, we're just going to keep these.
What are these airline standards that you think exist?
No, there's
Standards,
like
what are
the
those?
same standard as the rest of their other economy cabins, having the same seat. They all have the same seats except the 717.
Well, at least the doors aren't coming out of.
That doesn't matter because the Airbuses have it, and the doors don't come off anything that Airbus builds.
Well, it's also true. I'm just saying, for a Boeing plane, it's doing pretty well. I need to harass my competitor less. I'm gonna start to get
Boeing.
accusations.
I'm very unhappy with that specific airplane. Actually, I'll say the TFDI one was very fun to fly. It's great in the cockpit,
TFDI
but
does really
everything
great
else,
work.
everything else sucks about that airplane if you're a passenger. On to Latin VFR A320, A330 CM. My apologies. they've shown a preview of it. They're claiming this will be higher fidelity than their other modules. The others were a little bit dumbed down, not by a lot, but actually, they're like the avionics work. It'll fly A to B, but this is their A330 is supposed to be their most in-depth project yet. It's going to come out. The A340 is somewhere in there too, but not the 600, the 200 and 300 model A340s. And then I think this is going to be an A330 200 or 200 and 300. They haven't been very clear about it, but it is one of the airplanes of all time.
You really gotta feel for like the A340 that was designed for a really specific market that then just completely vanished with the rise of ETOPS.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
It's an endearing plane.
Maybe they shouldn't have made such an anemic airplane by throwing CFM56s onto a heavy. I mean, maybe that would have helped them a little bit.
Well, back in the day, I could understand the logic based off of who are you selling this to? People who can not really afford the high power of a Pratt & Whitney. Or what was the Pratt & Whitney they were looking at? I do not remember this.
I mean, either way, it's like an IL-96 but French-German. They're literally the same airplane. Almost. It's just the IL-96 is a bit more of a piece of shit somehow. I think it's actually more underpowered than the A330-300.
The IL-96, I'm actually very surprised ever flew at all. And the fact that they are restarting production scares me.
Yeah, I mean, well, they're required to at Aeroflot to buy some certain percentage of Russian airframes. And then, of course, on top of that, now they can't buy any Western anything at all. Yeah. So what else are they going to do?
I understand that Russia has no choice, but the IL-96, they couldn't have gotten some old Tupolevs off the line. They had to go for the IL-96. That was
it's the most efficient thing they can operate that doesn't explode.
It doesn't explode part is debatable.
Yeah, well, it doesn't crash as bad as the Sukhoi Superjets, at least.
Got me there. Russian aviation is so fucked.
And, as if, 3 active development A330COs, which with Headwind making a freeware one, wasn't enough. Let's go to our next slide, Mika.
It's another 737.
It's another lovely Airbus A330, except this one's not having a good time. Aerosoft has confirmed their A330 will be delayed until after the release of Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, and a move that has shocked nobody. This thing's been in development hell for 3 years. Apparently, Aerosoft is just being Aerosoft again.
Aerosoft has been having a bad time for a couple of years now.
Yeah. I love how they just released a CRJ, said, we're going to update it, and then just did.
This is going to sound super counterintuitive. One of my favorite sceneries of all time is the Aerosoft JFK for X-Plane 11.
Yeah, no, that's the one thing they can do consistently well.
Yeah, it's that JFK though. They made the decision to include all the old terminals, so it's the only scenery that I can still use that has the Pan Am world port.
Yeah,
which is so cool, and I wish that it had stuck around, but unfortunately, they made the choice not to update it in X-Plane 12 and MSFS, and I'm holding on to it.
I mean, Microsoft Flight Simulator had a custom-built, a hand-built JFK by default, so that's not terribly surprising.
And it's kind of tragic to me because the world port, I understand it's not there anymore, and I understand that most people like flying in the modern era, but there was a joy and charm to aviation in the early 60s and 70s that has just been lost to the wayside.
You mean the charm of dying horribly over and over?
We don't.
The charm of the 60s and 70s of lead paint.
We don't need to discuss gasoline. The fact that all of the flight attendants were
nuclear drills either. It was even worse. If you look at a Florida Tech's historian did a thing, there was just outright sexual abuse and discrimination in their flight attendant degree program they used to have. It was genuinely awful. It was only the rich could fly. I mean,
the past was the worst.
Yeah, JFK Terminal 4 Chad, stay winning. We don't need no circle building.
No, give me a circle. I want it.
Well, the TWA hotel's better. The TWA building's better anyway.
TWA building is really cool.
And it's
I'm planning on-
if you've ever been to that hotel, it's awesome. It's a blast.
I have a trip that we're planning like sometime in July-ish that I'm gonna be staying at the hotel for, and I'm so excited.
The rooms aren't big, but they're very well done. The other thing, rooftop bar with the pool, awesome. If you go down into the sunken lounge, right around closing time for the cocktail lounge on the Constellation, you can watch a bunch of drunk people stumble down the super steep stairs. That's always a lot of fun.
Also,
And
it's like the
if you're
cheapest
flying
hotel
on
in that area.
It is not cheap.
It's cheaper than most of the ones I was looking at.
Yeah, it is. I
like
think I
a
paid
lot.
$400 a night.
I was quoted at $320.
Okay, that's actually pretty good then.
Yeah, that's
But
fantastic.
if you're flying out on JetBlue the next morning, they have a tube that shoots you straight into T5, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's because it's all the same terminal. I mean, that was Pan Am Terminal.
Yeah, it was. And then
Not
eventually
Pan Am,
they built
TWA.
T5 version 1, then T5 version 2, which happened after JetBlue completely took over Terminal 5, except for one gate that they choose to share with Aer Lingus.
Yeah. So part of my part of the loss of the Pan Am Terminal, the reason it annoys me so much is because they kept the TWA building, but they did not choose to maintain the Pan Am Worldport, which, if you look at it, was effectively an entire, like, the terminal was what I'm terribly sorry about that, but the terminal was effectively what the height of flying in the 60s was supposed to be. Oh, Fractured thinks that beardless Spaceman is strange. I was highly debating giving you guys a bearded version of this, but yeah.
Yeah, there is a thing. We've only got one more civilian flight simulation article for the day.
That depends on whether you count spacecraft as flying or not. Actually, no. Technically, there's another civilian aviation one in here.
Well, I mean, civilian flight simulation one. You know, the rest of them are all real. All right. Next slide, please.
You're on it.
Already there. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's weird. It's just not showing that on the stream. Maybe it's delayed. No, it's probably delayed. Yeah.
Delay.
Okay. PMDG has made multiple previews of landing gear, cockpits, and body, and they've talked about squashing a bunch of bugs in beta testing, so probably sometime soon-ish, TM. The PMDG 777 will come out for Microsoft Flight Simulator, and it will be one of the planes of all time.
Is this the X or the 300?
I think they're doing both the 200 and the 300, the X to come later. They've been given advanced data on that, so they claim. Same with the Boeing 737 MAX 7 and MAX 10. They've received data for that ahead of time to make it for Microsoft Flight Simulator. In addition to the MAX 8 and 9 coming. Yeah. On a plane what has been delayed for a decade now?
Oh, longer than that.
Yeah.
They were talking about it in like 03, 04.
Yeah, I mean, it's, Boeing moment. Well, at least the doors don't pop off in flight simulators.
Yeah. But does the cockpit door fling open when the airplane is depressurized?
Who knows?
You can find out.
The PMDG 777, I mean, the 777 is so widely used throughout the world. My favorite operator of the 777 is, of course, Air Peace, down in Nigeria. Very niche reference that maybe some of you got, and probably most didn't.
Nope.
But, okay. It was worth a shot. Anyway.
So the 777 is so widely used throughout the world, giving effectively wide body capabilities to anyone who thinks they can operate it. It's really a fun jet.
Yeah, it's easy to operate too. And of course, it's a fly-by-wire control. And two of my cousins actually helped to design it.
Oh, really?
The
Okay.
original, yeah. And then they went on to the 787, 748, and then one of them stuck around for the 777X. Although he claims that his part works fine and it's everyone else's fault. Which I'm inclined to believe him given his track record. And yes, of course, we can't talk too much on that in case anybody ever wants to give us add-ons for free to review. But X and I know exactly what you're talking about. They've had PMDG's had a PMDG management moment. At least after, ironically enough, after they brought over Matthias from Aerosoft, they've reined in a bit. And it's pretty telling if it took somebody like that who was at Aerosoft doing God knows what for years, and they were still a mess. That if that made an improvement for PMDG, that was something else. And he claimed also that it turns out the reason it took the 737 so long to get an electronic flight bag was not because it was difficult to work with and Azubo just wouldn't help them. And oh my God, it's awful. No, nobody was working on it. They just didn't do it.
Just out of curiosity, is a PMDG management moment similar to an ED community management moment?
A big Nui management moment.
A big Nui moment.
A little worse, but it's where they just choose to outright abuse their own customers and beta testers and try and talk and provoke them on the forums and try to start fights with them. They're bad. Yeah, they're just worse. They're even worse than anything Eagle Dynamics could do.
Ow.
And it's like they don't have ED doesn't have the ego that PMDG's management and specifically owner does, or seems to have, allegedly. Mika and I could not confirm this. If you still want to send add-ons for us to review our way, please do so. jovervt@gmail.com is my work email. You should send me free airplanes. They'd be very cool. I will talk about them positively, and I will sell out my values for you.
If you send me free planes, I probably won't fly them unless they're in DCS or I don't know, another combat flight sim.
Jover's not lying to you. He will sell out his values. I remember when he told me he would never become a VTuber.
To be fair, that didn't start off as my own choice. I felt guilty.
None of this started as your choice.
Yeah, I know. Well, actually, FuWan Mocha was my choice.
Yep.
Mika and I thought that was a very good idea because nobody else was doing it.
Do you remember the document that said he'd made? It had somewhere in there Joe and Mika ideas, hand-holding, parentheses, very gay.
Yeah. I mean, that's not incorrect. Who keeps throwing stuff at you? What's Fractured Mother keeps throwing? What is he throwing at you? Is it a missile or is it a hammer? I can't tell.
When they do Lookout Sir, it's random stuff.
Oh,
so it could be like bananas, hearts, bicycles, bears. Ow.
Whoa, I have 11,000 points. Give me a minute here.
I got 3.9 on this account. Hold on.
Ow. That one was a fish. And there's a banana. There's a can. Ow. I think that was a tomato.
I can't believe they would throw Shark with VT at you.
Ow, ow. Ow, ow. Ow, ow.
Riston dumped a whole bunch of Spaceman logos on
This is what I'm left to.
That made me very happy.
Yeah.
One of these shows.
You should have made that so cheap.
I've left it so cheap because nobody uses it.
The bear looks hilarious. I like the banana though.
The bear is hilarious.
One of these shows that we did, I think it was the one with Sharklet actually. We were basically aiming the emotes and trying to get them to rest on Mika's head.
I got one of them. I got the Mika Wiggle little fall on his head.
We got a couple.
If you want the best bang for your buck, this one's pretty good.
Dude, we're just discussing different ways to punish Mika.
Yeah.
Oh man,
all right.
There's the ingenuity.
You want to talk about what we do in the morning, but
next up is still flight related, and not even kind of arguably flight related, absolutely flight related. And this is a follow up to our previous story on Ingenuity. So the last FuWan Mocha in the morning, we reported that NASA had lost contact with Ingenuity, but then they regained it a day or so later. Well, it turns out that it had its rotor damaged, and unfortunately, it has had its last flight on Mars. Despite this, it provided a plethora of scientific data, particularly on flight on Mars, the value of the bird's eye view for navigation, and identification of new things to take data on. And it may still serve a purpose on the ground, as it can use its rotor wash to move dust for potential experiments. I'm not entirely sure what kind of experiments they'll be doing, but I'm sure you can do a decent amount of experimentation with just the prop wash that this has without leaving the ground.
It tried so hard. It was such a good, like,
it did really well for the first
It did really
for the
well.
first heavier than air flying vehicle on another freaking planet.
I mean, Ingenuity is like one of those groundbreaking projects that you look at and you're like, you can't be serious. And then it happens, and I'm so glad I was proven wrong about it. It really did do more than it ever had to. And I'm very excited for what the next kind of Ingenuity helicopter is going to bring, because it's exciting. This whole new field has been opened up, and we know how valuable it can be. Also, Fractured is asking, how am I younger than Chocolate? And I just gotta remind everyone, she's my adopted daughter now, so, just take with that what you will.
I'd like to pose a potential question or a potential issue. So we see in this picture that it's missing a bit of the tip of the rotor.
Yeah.
I wonder
Yeah.
if the parts of that, depending on how big they are, I wonder if that's going to cause complications for scientific gathering. Because now there's potentially microplastics on Mars, or like carbon fiber.
You should be able to identify a microplastic as opposed to a like, if you're going through the topsoil and you see something that's like, oh, this exact thing that we made the Ingenuity helicopter out of, I wonder.
Yeah, but you're now going to have to discredit for a sizable radius. If you get anything like that, you're going to have to go, yeah, okay, we just assume that this is from our thing. So it may have contaminated a range of the soil. This is like, if you remember Curiosity, they did the sky crane, and then they couldn't take surface samples anywhere around the landing site because of the contamination from the fuel.
I suspect it'll probably be different to some degree. I mean, NASA are smart people. They've probably got this figured out already. But while I do not discount that there's likely a large degree of contamination in the immediate area, I think ultimately, especially for surface collecting of the general area around Ingenuity, we're probably still could be fine.
It's just an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah. I'm more worried about Elon Musk's Tesla Roadster that we just shot at Mars without thinking about.
See, people complain about that, but they don't complain about all the other test weights we've slung into deep space.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's a bunch
this
of Saturn stations just kind of floating out there somewhere.
Yeah, when you've got a new launch vehicle, unless you're going to be like NASA and you're going to actually put a valuable payload on it and not care if it gets blown up because you've got big daddy government money, you need a test payload of some known weight so you can tell the performance of your vehicle. You can't just launch it empty, and then nobody in their right mind is going to put a valuable payload on it. Like, even if you could go to a university and you can go, hey, this thing that you've been working on for 5-10 years, you can launch it into space for free, but we don't what are the odds that it explodes? Nobody's gonna take that.
Fun fact for you, I believe there was an incident sometime in the 80s or 90s where this asteroid had entered Earth orbit, and it's like, what the hell is it? It's metal. It looks like it was made by some civilization, but it came from solar orbit. And it was like, okay, is this finally fucking aliens? Is this it? Is it finally aliens? And what they had ended up determining was it was actually a Saturn V third stage booster that had gone around the sun and just happened to like get captured by Earth's gravity just perfectly every so often. come back around a couple more years, I think.
Yeah, and there's some of the lunar excursion ascent stages
Yep.
that are still floating around.
A lot of those in orbit of the sun.
I would love it would be beautiful if somebody could go grab one at some point and like put it in Earth orbit as a museum.
The
Thinking
part
about doing
no
that with the
one's-
Hubble telescope.
I wish we could do that with the ISS too, and the Hubble, and a lot of that cool stuff just boosted into a really high orbit.
Well, the active plan was to have somebody go pick it up and bring it back.
Oh, that sounds
You're-
difficult. That's a lot of down mass.
What are you going
Yeah.
to find? What has that capability? The only thing that even had capability to launch it was the shuttle, and that's not around anymore.
I think the idea was to do it with the SpaceX Starship, except the nose would open up to a cargo bay.
Yeah, that might be able to do it if they can get the Starship working.
Yeah,
If
It's
and a
that's
little
big
less
lofty
explodey.
thing.
I have had a long-standing argument with one of my coworkers who swears to me that the future of the moon landing is the SpaceX Starship, and I'm waiting patiently for him to maybe be right if it ever doesn't blow up on the test flight.
Yeah,
it's.
SpaceX is
I'm
SpaceX
just a
is-
little pissed they don't launch them in Florida, to be honest.
SpaceX is
Meanwhile,
fun
Artemis
because
is
of they're very move forward quick because they a lot of the newer engineering methods are realizing that it's really quick to prototype something and then just test it versus sitting there and doing all the hand calculations for every single bit. And especially if like there's no real cost other than money for your failure, it can tend to be actually cheaper and quicker to prototype through that way. So SpaceX is doing that,
Hold on.
whereas NASA doesn't have that luxury because they are using taxpayer money. And if NASA were to just have rockets blow up, even if it cost them less, the taxpayers would be very upset.
Yeah, they tend to do that.
I've harassed Airshow for the results of the match today, so we should hopefully find those out soon.
Ooh,
Sorry, what?
Oh,
the
great
beautiful
job,
chocolate
Sharklet.
graces us with her presence.
Hello, hello, wife.
It's good.
Exon called you a hag.
Airshow, can you
And-
give
and
us?
Hex
Oh,
is dead.
actually, I see it in this sheet. So In Sky beat Snake 2-0. The first match that I caught was quite intense. The second match, I only glanced on it, but it looked pretty frantic as well. I'll have to watch that VOD when we're all done. And if you're interested in SATAC, our beloved Airshow D is hosting a lot of the matches for it this year.
Even if you're not interested in SATAC, just go watch Airshow.
Yeah, he's a
Man,
better
it's a-
VTuber than either of us.
He's such a fucking delight. When I said I'm honored to know him, I mean that like actually seriously. I am thrilled to be privileged to know someone as nice and pleasant as Airshow.
Another match in 30 minutes of a match for Airshow. Well, we'll probably be rating into you then, or if
Yeah,
you know, or if it's not you, can you give me the link and I think we'll rate into that. Whoever it
'cause
is.
either way, we're technically supposed to moderate for Eric show. And
Yeah.
neither of us were there because we
It
were
is
on
you,
for
yep.
FuWan. Like he actually added me. I feel so bad because he added me as a moderator specifically for SATAC, and I had to work. I was at a race last weekend, then I had to work this past weekend, and so I wasn't there for any of the SATAC matches on the weekend. And then there's another one where I was flying off. I had to fly during a SATAC match, and I'm like, oh no. Oh, that's good. No drama. That's good.
Yeah.
That means that like there's no consequences
community's
to me
been
not
really
showing up for
well.
work.
Yeah, it's
The
been
community really well behaved this year.
yeah, it
which
was
is
I think we eliminated a lot of the problem people last year, and I didn't even ban them. I just timed them out. There were some people who were arguing about like, ooh, the FC3 planes are way better because of this stupid niche thing, whatever, blah 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 blah.
Oh, so it's
And-
not just Eastern.
and-
It's not Eastern European racism. It's just arguing
No.
about game metas. Okay.
Yeah,
is.
full
It's- and
fidelity
that's-
versus not. And so like we had a couple of those people last year, and I told them, hey, I don't care if your argument is valid or not. This is not the place. Please drop this argument now. And they refused, and I timed them out, and two of them got really pissy and was like, why the F did you ban me? I'm like, I timed you out for like 300 seconds, man. Just calm your head and you can come back.
I can't argue with Airships chat for 5 minutes. What will I do?
They were very, very upset, and I don't think they came back.
Yeah.
Good riddance.
They can be upset.
That's really not the kind of person you want in the chat anyway. The thing is, with competitive DCS, it's always one of two things. It's either some kind of racism, which, of course, or it's a complaint about... I'm sorry, it's either like some kind of racism, some kind of meta that people are upset about or talking about why it's better, or it's an accusation that someone is cheating.
Yeah.
And yes, that's all right.
So tiring. It's gotten very old. And
we just have to remember with SATAC also that like the organizers can only do so much. So like I was honestly getting a little pissy with the AMRAMs because the AMRAMs are being really funky in DCS recently, but the organizers can't change anything about that. What can they do? Not really anything. And so it's up to the teams to fly the best thing that they can for the competition. And you know, I think it probably benefits most teams to learn multiple completely different aircraft just in case ED breaks it before the competition.
We were never in SATAC, but 634 was going to be a competitive team for SATAL 1 year, and then there was a whole thing with GR and then SPQR, and then I think something like Golden, I don't remember the name, but this other team broke up and there was drama over that, and it's
GR causing issues. Say it ain't so.
It wasn't even.
They did. It wasn't them this time. Yeah, I was gonna say GR tends to do the issues thing.
I don't think they were the actual problem. I believe the actual accusation was one of the guys who makes the mission files for SATAL was also on the GR team, and there was a unique little
problem.
Yeah, well, he's generally pretty above board. I don't actually think he's guilty of this one.
Still a conflict of interest for SATAL.
What had ended up happening was there was like a unique, just tiny chance that you can get a little more performance out of an AIM-9 and like count a kill wrong, or it was something very stupid that had never actually happened. But it was a thing that could, under very specific scenarios. And everyone lost their freaking minds over it. And I was so done by the end of that argument because both sides were so ridiculously immature that we just pulled out of the competition entirely.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, SATAC exists, and it's better, so.
So I'm hearing. It's been really good this year.
Anyways, speaking of super niche scenarios, next up we have one of the most niche things you can do, possibly, and that is... this past week, Japan became one of a select few countries to successfully land on the moon. And yes, this is technically successfully landing on the moon. I'll get into that later. The list, I think, is only 5 countries to date. If I remember correctly, it is the US, Russia, China, now Japan, and I think India. The other one is India, or
it's India.
I couldn't remember if India had failed or if they were
India
successful.
India got a successful landing. It took them like 3 tries, but they got it.
It's a good reminder of how difficult it actually is to do this, even with unmanned missions. But the landing of JAXA's Slim probe here mimics the classic KSP start screen, but after touchdown, the lander still works, and it's still touch and go right now, depending on how much sunlight it gets. The 2 rovers that it launched prior to touchdown were able to grab this beautiful photo that mimics the KSP landing on the start screen. And Slim was intended to partially test out new methods for landing on the slopes of the moon. So you can see in this photo, this is like a 10-degree slope. I think it was 10 degree, unless it was like 10 grade. I might be mixing those numbers up. but the intent of it was going to come straight down, and then it was going to, a couple meters or feet off the ground, it was going to roll over and land on its side. And unfortunately, in that maneuver, they rolled a bit too much. So you can actually see one of the engines up here. There's another engine bell that got knocked off at some point. And then I think this left side we're seeing is where it was supposed to land. But it was also supposed to land with the engines facing the right side of the screen. But hopefully, with the way that it is, the solar panels are on the right side. Hopefully it should be able to gain some sunlight and do at least a portion of its mission.
Despite the fact that the failure mode was absolutely hilarious, Jackson deserves a lot of credit for what they have been able to do. First off, the fact that the lander is even intact after landing like this shows how close they really did get it. I'm sure it's probably very heartbreaking for a lot of team members there. There's a term that's used in spaceflight a lot, which is a successful failure, which is you did not accomplish the goal, but what you did accomplish was still pretty fucking incredible. And I think that's what this is.
Absolutely. I look forward to their next attempt. I like this landing concept. It's really out of the box and is a great use of, it makes great use of what they can do within the constraints.
Yeah.
And particularly landing on slopes is a big thing that I don't think really anybody's done yet.
They've done very cool stuff here. I mean, I just think it was almost certainly something was control, or maybe some impulse was just off, or maybe a thruster just swallowed hydrogen and got all wonky there out of nowhere. It could have been a million things, and to even land on the ground safely and get the picture was mind-blowingly cool.
Yeah, I think one of the suspected failure modes for this is Scott Manley had said something about there's the engine type they use, the style of engine, like not specifically that engine, but like the combustion method and whatnot, has a tendency to eat the engine. And so the fact that one of the engine bells is missing could be part of what happened.
I wonder, no, probably not kerosene, but I don't know. There's any number of things. Yeah.
But with that story, we're at the end of our stories, and we're on to bombarding Spaceman with questions.
Oh, good. My favorite part.
All right, Joe, do you want to start the questions this week, or should I?
Joe Dog.
Husband?
How did I get muted?
I don't know.
Welcome back.
All right, well, you start.
All right, Spaceman. First up, question: is it difficult running a DCS server from space?
Even if it wasn't from space, the pain and misery that it's been is almost endless. And it's funny you should mention that, because I was talking with Hoomst about this last night, and I've seriously considered killing it as of late, just based off of, although there's been significant pushback to that, so I'm not sure about it anymore. I've sent you guys the pictures. It has set fires in my house. It has caused my Wi-Fi to go out on multiple occasions. It's been multiple thousands of dollars. I've had whole machines just failed to bad hardware. And then at the end of all that, I still cannot get past the DCS issues of poor frame rates or bad rendering tech. And it's just misery. But one of the situations that had happened recently, because like I said, we were seriously considering coding it up until last night, and I had a conversation with Keys, who has probably just saved the server, and he had said that it's basically the only thing that he'll fly on PvE because he has so much fun with it. And that has been like everything I needed to hear all year. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the reward of knowing that someone is enjoying that it encourages me to, I guess, at the very minimum, I'm going to finish this new server I'm working on, right? Because the cost has already been sunk on that one. So
The funk sauced fallacy.
yeah. So it's painful, but you know, we get through it. We work through it.
All right, Joe, you want to ask
Sure.
the next question?
Sure. Why are you in space? Why can't
Why
you be
am I in
normal and be on
space?
Earth?
Why can't that be normal? Is a loaded question. I'm not sure we've got all the time in the
No,
world for that.
yes, but specifically normal as in on Earth.
Are you asking like, was my obsession with space, or where did space
Why
come from?
are you in space?
Why am I in space? I guess we'll blame the United States Space and Rocket Center on that one, of who we've got a picture of behind us. The whole Spaceman thing came from Space Camp, which has been really, they were really good in kind of helping me find what I wanted to do with my life, and I developed a very serious passion for space. And just the more time I spent in the community, I've met some of my favorite people of all time. I've got pictures I could show you later at some point. I learned a lot about leadership and what I wanted to do, like how I want to behave as a person and a leader. Although I hardly consider what I do a leadership role. It's, man, this is a good fucking question. I don't have all the answers for it.
Fair enough.
One of the dumbest questions is the best questions. Okay.
Let me put it this way. I've got this this passion for space that's just been stuck in my head ever since Space Camp, and it finds its way into everything I do eventually. So
And we got to come up with our stupid question for next week too. I don't know what to give him for a stupid question.
I mean,
You
it's
guys got
probably
next
going
We'll
to
call him
be
something.
for Kita next week. It's probably
Yeah.
the 3 Kita specific questions, unless we come up with more, is probably going to be: is life difficult flying planes as a cheetah? Why are you a cheetah? And then, do you have trouble streaming as a cheetah?
Oh, how do you get electricity out in a grassland?
Yeah, that too. We for the reference, the first couple of questions we ask of a guest are a little tailored specific to them, and then usually we assume that the person's like name or VTuber persona or streamer persona is actually them.
mine is me.
Yes, you flesh creature.
That's where the,
broken
like,
that mold.
that's where like the second question of why, you know, like with Airshow, why a Su-27, and then Sharklet, why a shark, and then you, why a spaceman, why be in space?
Oh,
I think
Question
we
of, like,
asked like
why
Sharklet,
do you
why
pick
like
that?
is it difficult to stream underwater or something like that? Like they're just really really dumb questions. That's really the fun part, is that we can
Oh,
just
Airshow's
ask
got a
those
good
and
one.
nobody. Yeah,
Mhm.
that is
How
a
do you
good
get
one.
past the battle eye as a cheetah? Please ask him that.
Yeah, I'll have to steal that one. Space. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, if the question is why do I not like pick a persona for streaming, I've always generally felt pretty comfortable with who I am, and I've never felt the need to kind of hide it. And not to attack you guys at all, but there's a part of me that would feel like that would kind of be dishonest. So I've always wanted to show who I am, kind of as honestly as I can do it, because, you know, I'm just me. And now I do play a character sometimes, because in all the briefing videos I take on this persona of like the CAG, which is this grumpy old Navy vet, and I just hold on, let me see if I can snap into it. I just start talking and swearing all the time, and I sound perpetually pissed off because all these stupid fucking goddamn. That's not as much fun for streaming anyway. It's
Can I
just,
break my landing gear and have you yell at me as the CAG?
I could do it if you want me to. Like, turn it on and off.
Once the A7 comes out, how about we do that?
Oh, absolutely. I'm very excited for the A7. I think the A7 is going to bring a lot to DCS. Yeah, it'll be a fun time. It'll be fun.
And speaking of bringing a lot to the world, DCS world, do you have trouble getting your video signal down to earth for this interview?
Yeah, we actually we switched to Charter recently. That kind of helped a little bit. No, it's funny you mentioned that because most of our issues with like CVW20 and streaming have been Wi-Fi outages where literal fires have cut connection lines. So
yeah, you should get that looked at. I don't think that's healthy.
We've tried on we had that one day where the power was out for like on my birthday of all freaking days, and then we were basically screaming at BGE and Xfinity like, we need this up now. This has there is a time limit here. If it's been down for 3 days, I don't think I'm being unreasonable. Please come out here and look at it. So it. I know you were joking, but yeah, it's hard sometimes. We did just complete a recent upgrade, and I think you guys had the press release on that too, where we swapped out all of our in-house networking equipment. So we started running basically fiber from the machines to the modem, and we're plugged into the fastest network we can possibly do on our end. So we're excited for that for sure. I think we had like 2 gig up and down on one test, and that was really cool.
All right, next up, how did you get started on flight sims, or what was your first flight sim?
Ooh, I've got a blog post on this one.
Oh no.
It's a good blog. Well, I kind of alluded to it earlier. My first flight sim was FSX, and I kind of just started playing it for fun. Actually, no, that's a lie. And I said then because my first flight sim period was X-Plane 9, so I've been around for a while. But I didn't really pursue that seriously until FSX, and I got my first joystick, which was just a crappy little Extreme 3D Pro. Baby's first flight simulator. There. Yeah. And man, that Logitech struck gold. The greatest idea for flight stick ever with the Extreme 3D Pro.
Honestly, it's a pretty good flight stick for its price. I know it dies really quick because of the potentiometers, but it's got a lot of buttons, which makes it hard to beat.
I have the same run from like fucking 2010. Like, sometimes they just live forever. But yeah, it's kind of a cheapo thing, but at the same time, I was 10, so I didn't need much. But FSX acceleration, I mean, Joe, I'm sure you remember that. It's like,
yeah,
that was a crazy freaking time in flight sims, and it really kind of opened my eyes to adventure and excitement. But from there, I joined my first competitive team, which I believe was the 459th. And it was... We did F-Force for the most part. That was using VRS TAC. And yeah. Went from that to the FSX F-14, and then Heapler released the F-14 for DCS, and it was... I want to say it picked up quickly. In reality, it kind of just spiraled out of control quickly. And then with 20, we we started that in the Navy barracks. That was me, Baldy, and Scout. And at first, it was just a thing to pass time, get through the day-to-day stress of, the Navy. And it never died. It had a lot of opportunities to, but it just did not die. So, we're still going today. Fun time.
Chugging along.
Yeah. All right. What else you got?
All right, let's go on to our next question. Why did you become a content creator?
Accidentally.
Seems to be a theme. I think there's only two that I've guessed we've had where that was a conscious choice, and that was Airshow and Sharklet. So between the two hosts and you, most of us don't.
Wait, you're saying that the two guests we've had prior made conscious choices to become content creators?
Yes. Everybody else involved in the show in any way did not.
We in the early days of 20, and if Sharklet ever does PowerPoints, you'll see a clip of it. Then we did a campaign called the Black Gambit, which was a stupid name, and I hate it. Everything about that campaign was just a really terrible idea. But I needed some way to tell people that it was happening, because we needed more members. At that point, it was just like me and Baldy, because Scout had gone off on deployment, and we needed people. So what do? Just create like a quick little intro video, kind of a little hook. We totally ripped off Wings by the Discovery Channel. And it was, it's just kind of meh. But Black Gambit, then we did videos during it, and one of my friends who I had actually met in the Navy, also on accident, mind you, going by Unclass Boot, had helped us out with that at one point. And it felt kind of like I was getting the hang of it. So from there, we started streaming. This is as the computer's getting better. Then we did Roaring Sun, and Roaring Sun had the advantage of also bringing in more members. So we continued to have more and more fun with it, and then it was just kind of like, well, I guess I'm streaming now. But if you notice, I do it very sporadically. I'm almost like Sarge, where I've got no schedule whatsoever. It's just doing when I want to have fun.
Schedules.
I like when people tune in. If one person tunes into a stream and says hi, it's been a successful stream. I've been very fortunate lately where a lot of people have stopped in and said hi. So
it's a good attitude to have, as always.
Yeah, it's a fun time. And sometimes it's just like, even if no one's watching, that's my time to vent to the world that will never see it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a fun time. And also it's allowed me to meet a lot of people who I've come to really respect and I really enjoy flying with and hanging out with. So that's that's been a big plus too.
All right. Now that you've told us why you became a content creator, do you have any goals in the future?
I have any goals? The big one used to be affiliate, and then we just recently hit that because we were working on that for like 3 years. Big goals.
They don't have to be big ones.
For 20, my goal is I want to see the server be able to sustain itself. And I don't mean like financially, because honestly, it's like I said, it's sunk cost. But I want it to be able to run and have people enjoy it and just kind of like tune in naturally and run the op without external influence. That is the pain and the suffering, and I'm working on it, and I swear I'm gonna get it eventually. Because you guys have seen it hasn't. It has not been cooperating.
It'll go kicking and screaming. But as for content creation, it's a daily thing. I just want to tune in and have fun for a little while. Like I said, if one person tunes in and says hi, I'm happy. So, yeah.
Yes. All right.
That 21 though, I'm gonna get there eventually. You guys just wait. You mark my words. One of these days, it'll work, and it won't have frame rate issues, and the AI will be functional, and the missions will make sense. And I mean it. We're gonna get there.
I blame DCS for the frame rate issues, man.
I blame DCS for so many parts of it. It's
Oh, I have another kind of tangentially CVW 20 related question. Did you ever figure out what was up with that wind? Because I had heard from someone else using that plugin that apparently the wind direction and strength you get is the default it picks when the data isn't working right.
Yeah, so basically what we did a lot of digging in through it, and we found the actual values that determine the wind speed. And DSMC, which is a good plugin, I'm not going to deny it. For Caucasus, the weather settings were like jumping straight to this one really bad year in the 1990s where the wind conditions were like hurricane levels for an entire summer.
Huh.
So I had to go in and like manually change the defaults, and we're talking like 12-20 knot winds were the expected default for this software. So whenever you guys had like the dumbest fucking weather conditions ever, that's why. And then eventually
like 40 something knot crosswinds where I have to fly the planes 45 degrees to the right in the C-130. Yeah.
And it was never something that we could track because it would update every day, so I couldn't really tell what was causing it. And then eventually someone pointed me in the direction of like, there's a table that it'll pull from. It's going to be one of these. And then I just found that like half of them were 12 knot minimums. So yeah.
Jeez.
We turned that off. And it's been better since. In fact, Mika, I don't think you've flown since the 20 on 30 op, and I gotta drag you back in at some point because I think you'll.
I think I've only flown DCS like twice since that op.
Yeah.
I think one of them was a nuts up.
Yeah.
At least.
I've gotten really into the nuts op. I've loved doing them. Exxon does such a great job at kind of doing stuff that I would never do otherwise.
He's the best in the business, just plain and simple.
Of course, he has to herd cats around, and I totally understand that. But it's always a fun time. They're good people in that server.
And apparently now he's going to stop you from shooting down civilian airliners.
Ooh.
He did it too, okay? I'm dragging him with me to The Hague. We're both going. That was a fun flight, though.
Well, you guys enjoy that. We'll do another, Sharko and I will do another desertion next week. We haven't picked our vacation destination yet, but you guys enjoy The Hague. Heard the Netherlands is really nice this time of year.
It was a fun cruise. It was a fun. We did the tanking with basically little. And Mika, I'm sure you understand. Anytime you can like tank and you don't have to fight the tanker, it's a fun time.
I am fighting the tanker. Well, I'm not necessarily fighting the tanker when I tank in DCS. I'm fighting myself.
Well, that too. I got right in with the Tomcat, and then went straight to full internal. I was so thrilled. It was a fun time.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes. And that brings us to your favorite airplane.
Well, I'm sure we all saw this coming.
No, who knows? We thought we did last week.
Yeah, we thought we did last week, but we were thrown for a loop.
You know, I kind of want to say F-35 for the memes. The F-35 is absolutely my favorite modern aircraft. But for me, it's the F-14-A-135-GR.
Boo.
Too many letters.
No, leave it alone. It's endearing to me, right? In the same way that the F4 is a shitbox, the F-14A is really, it had a fight for everything it ever got. When you're flying well in an F-14A, it's because you learned the aircraft and you developed your skill on it. And I started on the D. I've gone backwards. I went from D to B to A. So, I get it. It's not the best version of the F-14A. I mean, of the F-14. But I also did all of my basic fighter maneuver training in the A, and I got really good at learning like what throttle settings I need for what. And then I can do fun, wacky shit with the A that no one else can do, and I don't actually think I can do the same tricks with the B. I was doing a dogfight with Airshow once, and I still have the TAC view file for that. And he's like, got me dead to rights. And then I just fucking like cut a throttle, pull a rudder, and depart from normal flight and force him to overshoot me. And then I just resume back on the... It was so dumb, but it worked and it felt cool. The more time you spend in an airframe, I recommend this for all DCS pilots. Pick one aircraft that you just want to learn really well and spend a stupid amount of time in it. Because if you do that, you will get good in ways that you don't think you can do.
Yeah,
People
sometimes
make
it
fun
takes
of
a
me
little
for that.
while to find that airframe though. Like it's, I went from the Hornet to the Tomcat to, given I did not enjoy the Tomcat, I enjoyed flying the Sharklet, which was like a cope for the Tomcat, I guess. Then I went on to the Strike Eagle and found that that is what I do best.
That was one of the things the 459th did really well, was we were not allowed to pick our airframes. They were assigned to us. So when we started on the F4, and I realized, yeah, it's fast. It'll go in a straight line better than any other freaking aircraft, but man, it can't turn for shit. I don't like that. And carrier landings is taking your life into your own hands. So then the 14 really had everything I kind of wanted from the airframe. It was more maneuverable at the low speeds. You could turn on a dime if you got good at it, and the airframe just talks to you. Like, it'll start rumbling and jittering, and you know exactly where your AOA is at, what's going wrong. You can listen to the engines and tell what your speed's going to be in about 2 minutes. It's nifty. It's kind of fun. But that's why I like it. I understand it's not the best, and I'm not I'm not fooling myself, but you can win more fights than you think if you take the time to learn it.
I think that's something people often forget with what's your favorite airplane is just because you think, or just because you are really fond of an aircraft or one's your favorite doesn't mean you think it's objectively the best at everything.
No. I've worked on an F-35. I know that in a fight between the two, the 35 is going to tear the 14 to pieces in the first 20 seconds. It's beside the point.
Haha, AIM 260, go brr.
Yeah, the 14 is the right plane for me. That's what I love about it. And if you wonder why I force everyone to fly the A's on 20, it's because the A model, despite not supposed to, basically lived right up until the retirement of the Tomcat. There are some squadrons that just never swapped over.
Yep.
So.
Even with like the absolute shit heap engines. Crunchy compressor stalls.
Which aren't that bad if you get like good at managing the stall conditions.
Yeah, except it should just never happen in the first place. You shouldn't have to be managing stall condition.
But you know what? A Boeing plane's not supposed to nosedive you straight into the ground, and that happens
That's
too.
correct. That's also very true. My Strike Eagle doesn't do that, though. It just... actually, I don't have to do anything. I just tell the pilot in front of me what I need.
Yeah, you get the easy job.
I don't know. That has to be the entertainment piece for Sharklet, so that part's not as easy.
You know what the other thing was about the 14? I just remembered this. I loved the transition from oh man, I gotta do everything myself, to having a team in the cockpit. And especially with Keys, who's my Rio now, and he's fucking fantastic at it.
Except when you're in the Rio seat where it's just, oh man, I gotta do everything myself.
Well, yeah. I'm sure you're probably not a huge help either. But
No, Sharklet's great in the Strike Eagle. It's like we can push things to each other, and like we can actively change who does what because we all get the same screens. I just have more screens than she does.
You know the part no one ever wants to talk about with Sharklet is she's a fantastic pilot because she's taken more time to learn shit than most people will at her experience level. But,
yeah, well, she's also entertaining and keeps me from getting too bored. And I know when she does crazy shit, she's just gonna pull it off, and it's gonna be fine. You know, we laser bomb while doing split S's over the air, like a split S over the target. And we know that if we're slightly late coming to pick out a target, we can just split S over it, and I know my bomb will still drop within parameters, and I can guide it onto the target.
She is really entertaining. I always love flying with her because something funny will happen.
Works.
Yeah.
All right, now that you've gushed about your favorite airplane, why don't you rant about your least favorite airplane?
I've got a lot of things I could pick here.
You can pick one from every era if you can't decide on one.
Well, one from every era. I don't know enough about World War II planes. I probably wouldn't be very much help there. But in terms of early Cold War, man, Russia's gonna get a lot of hate from me here. How do I say this without sounding like a gigantic... Actually, I'm okay with this when it comes to Russia. The Mikoyan Defense Bureau has had the best PR in the past 30, 40 years, not because the planes are fantastic, but because people will shill for them without understanding what even makes the planes okay. So I think if I have to pick my least favorite plane, and this is probably through no fault of the plane itself, it's probably going to be some version of the MiG-29 or like the MiG-23, because it's the kind of stuff that's billed as like, oh, it's a super fighter. No, it's fucking not. You know what it is? It's a cheap thing that a third world country can use to prop up their air force that they can't afford. That's what it is. Or actually, the MiG-21, I think, is the antithesis of this argument. Right? It's a self-defense plane. That's all it is. It's an intercept. It's like the tiny revolvers like some women will carry around in the purse. And it's just
Saturday Night Special? Or Sunday Night Special?
Like itty bitty fucking baby fucking gun. Yeah, that's what a MiG-21 is. You're not supposed to use it in any scenario other than like absolute last line of defense, because that's all it can do. It'll take off, hit the bomber, and that's it. I wouldn't bet money on landing.
It is a really fun, like it's terrible, but it's also really good because they like gave up a shitload of features to make it really good at take off, kill thing, come back.
I had this argument with Sharklet like 2 nights ago where she's like, oh, it's really endearing. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's a piece of crap. You just got good with it, which I didn't even think was possible, but there we go. I mean, there she goes again.
I'd like to see, since we've seen Airshow fight Sharklet, where he had a MiG-21 and she had an F-14 and he won. I'd like to see Airshow versus you in that same matchup and see how it goes.
The TACV file I'm talking about, where I fought Airshow once, and I believe it remains my only dogfight with Airshow. He was flying an F-18C. I was in a 14A, and I still managed to give him a run for his money. If I wasn't lagging, I think I would have got him.
We all know Airshow's way better in the MiG-21 than he is in the F-18, though.
Airshow's a fantastic pilot in most things. That's
He is.
He might even be able to get you in a Mirage F1, to be honest.
He might, yeah.
And that thing's a Mirage F1.
Oh, I remain convinced the only reason I got him in this bad position is, one, it was an A model, and I know that thing like the back of my hand, and B, he was drunk.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You did not share that detail earlier. That's a massive buff for you.
Yeah.
There's questions on
he's
how
drunk.
drunk. Mika, you remember that stream? He was pretty fucking lucid, despite claiming to be drunk. But
He hides his drunkenness quite well.
well, there we go. That's also true. I can't argue with that. But it's oh man, I remember that fight fondly. There were definitely missions I've had over my DCS career where it gets burned into my brain, and I remember them very, very fondly. There's the finale of Roaring Sun we did where it was like 50 B-52s, and it was just me, David, and Star. And we cruised out over Shiraz. That was a good day. It was one attack on Kish I remember very fondly. And then the first time I ever flew with Sharklet was on Airshow stream. That one I remember, again, very, very fondly. I talk about it a lot because it's one of those memories that just gives me dopamine. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's been a couple with Airshow that I remember very fondly. So that's why I always tell him I owe him a lot. I tell Airshow that I owe him a lot because I do. There's very good times I've had with him that I credit him for giving me, and I'm very thankful for that. So, yeah, a lot of fun times.
Yes. All
All
right. I think we're on favorite era of flight now. That would be, well, I think I can guess it, but go
I
ahead.
think you can too. 1980s. That's not even just my favorite era of flight. It's one of my favorite eras in general. I've had a lot of instructors and I guess kind of mentors too. One of which recently passed away. Very have an upsetting thing. It was Vince Batas, who was one of my coworkers for a number of years, and he was on the USS Ranger in '85, working on the EA-6B Prowler. And I've been very honored to know a lot of these people who've been around in the Navy and other services during that time, just talking about the era and stuff that was going on. It was a really cool thing where we were starting to get into the modern era of everything. Like, things were becoming what they are today. And the 80s is in this weird transitional period behind all the old analog and the birth of digital, you know? So I have a lot of fun with the technology that comes out of there, but also just experiences and stories and aesthetics and stuff like that. It's all very cool to me. So the Tomcat obviously is one of the big representations of that. But also you have stuff like that. I believe the 18 came out around then, the 15E, the 16. DCS is primed for the 80s. And
But where's our lovely 80s tracks in DCS, man?
Good question. We're working on a feature. Well, we've been working on a feature where basically over SRS it'll blare just like, I think in Dev Test 4 it blares 80s Eurobeat music, or not Eurobeat, but 80s pop, 80s Euro pop. It's all stuff I've never heard of. But the track was compiled for me, and it's neat enough. Fractured Mold said Derringer or something, and I believe that's a reference to Hold
The
on.
MiG-21.
He's in my. Oh, is it a MiG-21 reference?
Yeah, you said that after you were talking about the small guns.
I thought that was a reference to Rick Derringer, who wrote the song "Real American," which was an '80s song that just talks about how amazing America is.
No, he put that in chat a long time ago now.
Oh, okay. I haven't been paying attention to the chat. Also, go listen to "Real American." This great song. I think it was Hulk Hogan's WWE intro. It's really corny. I love it.
All right. Next question up is what are your favorite kind of scenarios to fly in flight sims?
Wow. If
I don't
20
mean
in the
servers,
80s
scenarios.
I like Cap a lot. I'm a big fighter guy, and Cap is definitely my jam. I like getting up in a plane, cruising around, chilling just for prolonged periods of time, and then something happens and I'm on it. You know?
The mission
I'm
where
pretty good.
everything is chill, but then it goes 0 to 100 really quick.
Yeah, like everyone's like, oh, I don't want to do that because that's boring. I'm like, I don't mind the boring. I am okay. I'm a young man, but Jesus, you couldn't fucking tell from all the stuff I've quote unquote experienced. So there's a certain point where I'm just like, if a mission is chill, you're gonna come home alive. So don't discount the relaxing stuff. Sometimes I just like cruising around at low level. I do treetop stuff. That's a lot of fun. I do that on FPL more than I like nowadays. Strikes. I like a good strike. Where you just, come in, you pre-plan the attack and everything. The key to a good scenario is good planning and then good preparation. And those are two different things. Like planning is when we did 20 on 30 and we had like all the knee boards and stuff and like making sure you had all the information. That's planning. Preparation is reading the knee boards and practicing and making sure you're going to be good and not coming up in the last second and being like, oh, what's... That's the thing no one ever does. And it's DCS. It's a game, right? Come on. We've all got lives and everything. But if someone like shows up Sharplet shows up at the last second, doesn't read the briefing, doesn't pay attention to it, and it's like, oh, what do I do? That's when stuff.
She has me, so I can just I know my job. Like it's just take notes. She's not going to be. I joke about her being late, but it doesn't really matter because I take all the notes from the briefing anyway to pass on.
Well, and also she reads them like ahead of time, so.
Well, there's a lot that's usually included in there that isn't included in the written form of the briefing.
Yeah,
that's the thing when it's on the notes ops. That's why my job is to be the notes guy for that. True. And she has to continue to entertain her chat throughout the briefing as well. So I understand why it goes the way it does.
That's the
it just
other
takes
thing,
it takes is good CRM to not have a problem.
Well, and we talk a lot of shit about her doing that, but at the same time, like she's got to stream for like 4 hours a day. The nuts ops don't run that long, and like I get it. You got to do something, and that's really the only chance she's got to doing that, and also streaming nuts, which brings exposure to nuts, and it's not a bad thing, I don't think. It's. I like making fun of her because she's a fun person to make like when she does the mama thing. That's fucking hilarious to me. But at the same time, I understand about 70% of why she does things the way she does. Except for the leaving the window thing open. That's fucking stupid.
What was it? I can't post the Visit Florida image, but
It's Oh, by the way, when we did the Determination 7 mission, I flew down to the Cape in MSFS for that, and I flew over your house in an F-104 at Mach speed.
This happens. There are F-104s actively stationed here. Like there's still a fleet of them flying for Starfighters Inc.
F-104s.
Oh,
Ew.
Starfighter Inc. is in undisclosed location. Yeah, forgot
No,
about that.
They're not undisclosed. They're pretty public that they're at Cape Canaveral.
I was trying very hard to not talk about where you lived.
I don't
And
live in
this-
Cape Canaveral.
Okay, yeah, let's leave it at that.
Well, yeah. Like, I don't
Neither
live
do
there.
I, and neither does Spaceman. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't live in Cape Canaveral.
Nobody cares
I live in
about
Baltimore
like.
though, which is not fun. I don't like Baltimore. I'd move if
Nobody
I could, but
does.
I live here for work. Actually, it's okay. There are definitely things about it I enjoy. Like I live next to so many historical airports. It's not even funny. Actually, my house is on the grounds of what used to be an airport, which is particularly hilarious.
All right. I think that brings us to our next question. What is an upcoming flight simulator update, whether that be a product, a module, or something else, or a big update that you're looking forward to that is not the F4?
That is not the F4.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we had to
we
put
had to
the
specify
caveat under
that,
that
'cause-
question, realizing everybody would say, "Oh, F4."
Yeah, everyone
Yeah.
would just say the F4. Well, yeah. My answer for that is two heat blur things that I've been told we were going to get a long time ago, and I'm frankly a little upset that we don't have them yet. I want my A6. Not even like a full fidelity. Give me the AI model.
Yeah.
Give me like 4 polygons. I'll be happy. Just I want my A6.
Give me the
Because-
A6 and buddy tanking for the love of God.
As a mission designer, my attack aircraft options for the carrier are sorely limited right now. Because what can I use? The F-18?
Yeah, you have the Hornet,
Well,
the S3.
the S3 is like such a technicality that I'm frankly upset that it's been suggested to me on multiple
Wait, what?
occasions.
The
There's not
S3?
many choices. Yeah, the S3 can carry
Yeah.
bombs and rocket pods.
The S3 is a flyable module?
No, it's
No.
not.
Oh.
But I'm even just saying just as AI. Like I just want an AI that I can use because one of the cool things we had for a long time was tasking for AI that it could be like, oh, the AI sees so and so has moved to this area. I'm going to spawn a ground attack aircraft and it's going to go launch and attack that thing. It was a very cool thing that DevTest could do. We cut it as a frame rate measure, but it was a really awesome thing. But we had to stop doing that because then the A4 AI broke and couldn't launch off the carrier anymore. And by the way, what's the A4 doing in the 80s? That's really not supposed to be there either. It's all this, you know what I mean? You give me an A6, I can solve a million problems.
Or an A7.
Or an A7. The A7's the other one I'm very excited for, and I think it'll bring a lot to the module, but the not as much as the four-stall deck crew. Please, I'm begging you.
Is that
If
going
you
to cost
give me
$80?
a
bucks?
Is it going to come with more fire hoses?
What? Just roll it into super carrier as far as I'm concerned. I want. Oh, okay, fire hoses. I see what you did there.
Mika got it the first one.
You know what? We watched a movie on that called Trial by Fire. I think you can find it on YouTube. The video about the forestall fire. That was part of our damage control training. That video fucking scarred me when I was going through training. Cause it's like they don't hide shit.
Yeah, you know, that was the example of how not to do damage control for 50 years, and then the Moskva happened. So
They
there's your new example. It's
followed.
not the forestall anymore.
They had followed the procedures though. They were up to date. They did everything that they could have done. The problem was back then it was policy that you would train damage control teams in damage control.
Yeah.
But
Instead of just everybody is damage control.
yeah. But both damage control teams on the ship were killed in the first couple minutes of the explosions.
Yep.
That's when it became a fucking
So-
problem.
Tad suboptimal.
Yeah, it's a scary thing to think about. Your ship is on fire. It's getting worse. There's bombs and fuel everywhere. and also no one knows how to put it out.
Yeah.
Like, I would panic.
Yeah,
And actually, credit to
had,
Navy Fire Control. I'm sorry, Miko. I'll let
Yep,
you
go
talk in
ahead.
a second. If it had not been for Navy damage control training, I doubt I would have been able to put out the house fire as quickly and efficiently as I did.
Yeah.
It speaks to something on how good we got drilled and shit. Because it's like, where's the fire extinguisher? I know. Go get it. Check for relight. Check for relight. Check for, and it did relight multiple times. Also told me not to trust if the breaker's actually out, because guess what? Sometimes that stuff can hold a charge. So, yeah, it's a fun time.
I had heard with the Forestall fire, part of the trouble when the non-damage control trained crews were trying to extinguish it was that they kept putting a triple F
in the water.
and then water, and they just sprayed the F off basically.
Yeah, it's a unfortunate screw up, because the thought process was, well, AFFF will put it out, but so will water. Better safe than sorry when we're talking about bombs and fuel. So
I mean, if I wasn't specifically told about that, I probably would have thought, well,
Right.
Oh, foam and water, why not?
yeah, and it's in the trial by fire video. You see them reading the instruction manuals for how to put the SCBAs on. Like, Jesus, you can't be doing that in the middle of a fire, and it's because they didn't know, they weren't trained. Who would? So I really get it, and it's a very unfortunate tragedy that all that happened. In fact, that it happened because of not a cost saving measure, but a time saving measure. Oh man,
One that wasn't even all that good in the first place.
yeah, it was
Didn't really save you very much of any time.
horrible fucking horrible.
Yeah, not
screw
really
up there.
good trade-off there.
But yes, I'm very excited for the Forestall deck crew. If you bring the Forestall up to CVN 74 standards in DCS, I think you will see it become maybe one of the primary carriers, and that might be part of the reason why they haven't done it yet.
Can't steal the sales from Super Carrier.
You can still get sales from Super. Just turn it off if they're not using Super Carrier. Problem solved. I will pay the money for the deck crew. I don't care. I mean, it's stupid, but I don't care. I'll do it.
Oh God, you're part of the problem, Spaceman. No!
I am part of the problem. You know what? Because they promised me 6 freaking carriers when Super Carrier launched.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
I mean, this
deck
is the thing.
crew.
I was gonna get Super Carrier, but now I don't fly off carriers anymore, so I don't care anymore. So it's like, unless we land a Strike Eagle on a carrier.
Yeah, it's really, and that's the thing. I mean, I understand making Super Carrier like a separate module, because if you only do Air Force planes and you never interact with the Super Carrier, there's no point.
Also, DCS, where F-16D? That would be great to have. I would love to have the F-16 be able to be in the backseat of the F-16 and have the ability to do what I want as a weapons systems officer, with a pilot in the front instead of just sitting around while seed missions go on, waiting for stuff to be freed for a Strike Eagle to come through, like last night where I got kicked out and put in the fuel tank by Sharklet, who's not here anymore because she's busy streaming.
My wish list for another F-16 in DCS, it's pretty torn. I would love I'd love an A variant. An A variant would be so fantastic, because it would do so much. People really don't realize that like the F-14 and F-16 were only, was it 8 years apart from service entry? So
Yep.
they're really close in service entry, and the F-14A has vastly different capabilities compared to the ones we've got in DCS. Like you've got a radar that's a lot worse. You don't have IFF interrogators. You only have Sidewinder capability. You don't have
There's a
big
lot of joy to
MFDs.
Steam gauges.
there's a lot of joy in flying that. It'll handle the same, but it'll be a fairly different aircraft, and I think it would be really worthwhile adding it as like
But if
a
you get-
$30. You buy the F-16 and then you buy this add-on to get another variant.
Yeah.
But the
If
other
you get
one
an
that's
F-16D,
the other
can
one
bring
that's
me.
really up there for me is getting like a foreign or an IDF D variant where you've got the conformal fuel tanks, the twin seater, so you've got like 1,000 pounds of internal fuel, or no, 8,000-ish pounds of internal fuel, and then give it the like all of the weird shit that you have for those foreign variants. So like war HUD, the terrain following radar, which is already now modeled in DCS. It's literally the exact same pod.
Yeah.
Give
I think-
harpoons and all that.
yeah, it's really just get all. It could just do all the things if they're F-16s.
Everything except
Well-
they don't have the harm target, or the harm targeting pod.
Which even then, they probably could just get one and stick it on there and it'd probably work fine.
The hard part is getting one that's a US
Yeah.
only thing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's part of the problem.
And ED could just do ED things and just give us one anyway.
But they don't want to give us SDBs.
No,
Of
don't
course
want
not.
to give you something that could give you more fun. No, to be honest with you, I would rather have more like different airframes. You know what I mean? Like, give me the weird stuff. I want Red 4 to get built out. I want to see stuff from different eras. You know, I want them to like really crank out just new experiences. And tragically, I don't think the F-16D really captures that. You know,
But the F-16A does, since Egypt flies them.
and this is true.
And then you could have a scenario where you're fighting F-16As with F-16Cs.
But you give me a full fidelity flogger, man, I will give you a PvP scenario overnight that'll really shake things up in DCS. It's yeah. There's a lot of stuff coming out right now that it's all kind of exciting. Yeah.
All right, then we can bring on to our next question. Spaceman, then this is probably the hardest question. I think we should probably start giving this to our interviewees prior to the thing, because nobody's really been able to give us an answer because they have to think on this one. What is an insult you received that you are proud of?
What's an insult that I received that I'm proud of?
Yeah, one of you maybe you found it funny, you like it, like what?
It
I
has to
have
be
to-
TOS safe, just to remind you.
Well, one of them is absolutely not, and I'm not going to bring it up again. But do you
Yeah,
remember
please
the
don't get us
doxing
a-
incident?
Please don't give us a Twitch vacation.
No, I'm not going to go into detail. But Mika, do you remember the doxing incident?
That was so incredibly fucking weird.
How popular am I? Being doxed on the internet.
Oh.
It used to bug me, and I do still get messages from these people. But Kita brought it up recently and was just like, kind of treating it like a joke. I'm just thinking, yeah, it is kind of funny, isn't it? Oh, I've changed my tune on it slightly. But the other one is I was referred to as obnoxiously American.
Did you reply to them with a picture of a plate full of bacon next to a 1911? That's the only proper
should've.
response.
I thought really, like, if I'm being called obnoxiously American, I've got to be doing something right with my life. Like, thank God, you know? I like my heritage. But I have ancestors. Hugh Scott, actually, we found this out very recently, came to Pennsylvania before it was Pennsylvania. You know, my family has been in America for a very, very long time, and I'm very proud of it. And I understand there's 1,020,000 issues with the country. I like being American, God damn it! And if you're gonna fucking call me obnoxiously American, thank you. I like it. So, yeah, I'm pretty proud of that one.
See, I always feel
I don't think
different to that insult because I'm just a pasta people, so you know.
Well, my mother's side is Italian immigrant, so
Yeah.
I get you there too.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's I don't think squid is really an insult anymore. I guess
No.
shipmate is kind of rolled
So-
back around to being an insult, but it's, you know,
I think squid's kind of just a label, I think, more than anything else now.
squid used to be. See,
It
squid and
used to be,
shipmate are
yeah.
funny because shipmate used to be a compliment thing, and then it rolled into being an insult because everyone would say it sarcastically, and I think now it's rolling back into being a compliment. But for me, who used it almost exclusively as an insult, it's still very weird. Because I don't know how to describe this to someone who hasn't been in the Navy, but usually, like, if you wanted to be like, hey, you fuck ass, you would say, instead of that thing, you would go, hey, shipmate. And you'd say it in a very specific tone, and it would get the message across like, oh, okay. You and I are not friends. It's very funny. And now I hear people like using it. It's like, oh, it's a term of endearment. It's like, no, it's not. That's what I would say to people when I wanted them to know that I'm not happy with them. But anyway,
Yes.
all right. What a good
Last question. Your turn, Mika.
Last one, but you want me to do the last one?
Because that's usually, you're usually the one who does the last one.
All right, Spaceman. This brings us to the final question of the day. If you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be?
I'm not sure if I have enough coffee in my system.
Oh no.
Oh. Oof. Here's your hard one. Man, if I could be remembered at all, I think I'd be successful. But I've always wanted to kind of leave the world a slightly better place than the way I left it. You know, like, I don't need to make a big change, but if I've added value to some people's lives, I think I'd be happy with that. And I wonder about that constantly. Like, am I doing the right thing? It's this. Does it matter to anyone? And there's no good way to think about that. So I've kind of tried to give up on that. But I think ultimately, if I can bring more joy than I'm causing misery, then I've probably done the right thing on that one. Yeah, I'd like to be remembered for making things slightly more positive. That would be nice.
Always a good thing to strive for.
Yeah, that is a solid one.
So we didn't hit 3 hours, but boy, did I come close.
Yeah. I'd like to keep this to not 4 hours so I can have my Sunday to do stuff on.
Yeah.
Do we have time to answer Fractured's question of how am I younger than Sharklet?
Sure, why not?
By being born after Sharklet?
Yeah, that's the best I can come up with. I get it a lot, though. I'm told quite frequently that I sound very old. And I do not know for sure what that is. I've heard many theories about it.
Yeah, you just went to the beach that makes you old.
Yeah, the M. Night Shyamalan beach. It's actually off the coast of Kansas.
So the place that makes you old is what we call the U.S. Navy.
Yeah, you're not wrong. That is one of the theories I hear often, where it's like, I've had a lot of experience for someone my age in just a lot of different things, which may have led to that. But I think I was also getting these comments in high school, so I think it might just be kind of the way I carry myself. I've convinced people to think I'm old. So I try not to act like a teenager all the time. But you know,
It is just one of those things. And there are certainly worse compliments. At least to me being called daddy a lot, which is
Oh no.
very odd.
Yeah, that's always one that gets you to squirm a bit. That's
Usually by women who are older than me.
Shark tries to get me to do that a few times as like I don't know. It's the way she tries to antagonize me. She does one of the few things that will actually antagonize me instead of me just turning it back around on her. And it's like that is just like the most uncomfortable thought that she can give me, and it just.
Fangirl and Ayla do it to me a lot in the squadron, and I'm just like, stop it! I'm
usually
all of you.
the only one, the one I'll usually give and do that with back is I'll just remind her that she's older than me. So
it's coming from a place of love, so I'm not like upset, but it's so fucking weird.
Yeah, and when I say that, it's like, well, you're older than me. You know, you're the one that likes going after young dog boy VTubers or whatever. Like, that's Mika respects me enough not to do that.
The
he is my oftentimes he is my favorite spouse between the two of them.
The other joke that has spawned from that I'm quite fond of is the joke that you two are both my adopted dog children.
But Spaceman,
I already have a dad.
No. Mika, not Mika. Quentin's your biological father. I'm just your adopted one.
No, he never adopted me out. I still live in his house in Minecraft whenever Sharklet beats me. There's no joint custody here. He's in the chat. He can confirm that there's no joint custody here. He's my only dad. Except for my real life dad, which is, that's a whole other can of worms. That's not how that works.
We'll give Quentin a minute to respond.
If he's still here, which I think he is. Either way, I still maintain that you are not my father.
Yeah,
we could go on like one of those trashy talk shows and do a DNA test and everything, and you'll see that Quentin's my dad.
No, the one I told Mika, which again spawned from a conversation with one of my coworkers, it's just like, yeah, I've accidentally adopted him, and I think neither you nor I nor him have any control of the situation.
Yeah,
which is generally true.
What was the trashy talk show that does the DNA test? Was that Jerry Springer? Yeah. All right. We'll add that one to the idea list. Mika, one of it was the late night uncensored FuWan Mocha thing, or the one where we just have less control.
Spaceman, Quentin, and Joe. Jerry Springer.
Our own version of Jerry the Springer.
I'm so down for this. This is gonna be terrible and trashy, and I love it.
On that note, let's go raid Airshow D.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mika, since you're son of me, we should make a raid message that has both of us in it. Because 2 dogs.
Oh.
Not 1 dog.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
I'm here.
Come up with it.
By the way, I did adopt Sharklet though. That's a real thing. I paid $60 to the World Wildlife Fund.
Actually, Joe, I don't have your emotes.
No.
I have Joe's emotes. Hold on.
Yeah.
It's
Sure.
You can copy and paste it, and it won't look right, but
yeah, it'll
do the thing. Oh, but I don't have Joe's emotes on this account. I gotta fix it.
I got you, because I have both.
This account is such a bastardized one because this is just my stream account. I don't typically watch people on it, but sometimes I'm on
there you go.
PC. And... Yes.
All right, chat. Pick whichever raid message you want, and we're just gonna roll with it. But we will see you all next week, same time, same place. We will be having the adorable cheetah on.
One of 3 acceptable cats.
Yeah.
Who's the third?
There's Zvo, the artist, made a Brightline themed Panther girl that I simmed for. So yeah.
But thank you all for watching, and I will catch you around.
Look, a mailman!